Mercer County in particular, but New Jersey in general. It's a crossroads because it is an armed civil war. Equal sides of loyalists, patriots, and Quakers. It's very intense, very personal, and really pretty nasty.
The Revolutionary War was really the first civil war in this country. We had brother against brother. Some of them were patriots, some of them were loyalists, some of them just didn't want to be bothered, just leave me alone. This went on, especially in New Jersey. New Jersey was a mess.
This area was the backwoods of the backwoods. The Pine Barrens on maps were called the Jersey Desert.
Here at sort of the edge of civilization, there weren't many people, that's for sure. A town like Manahawkin only had 58 houses at the time. By the time of the American Revolution, the people have lived in Manahawkin for 70 years, 80 years, and that gives a chance for several generations. Just as today, people have strong political opinions, and they have to somehow try to work that out.
In these small communities, political differences in the circumstances of the war turned into personal vendettas that lasted generations. And out of that conflict grew a local legend and a story that unfolded over years, a story that led to one of the final deaths of the Revolutionary War.
I do not know who John Bacon was. I think he's the most interesting character from the American Revolution, maybe in all of New Jersey, but certainly down along the shore here. Who was this guy? What were his motives?
Basically, he was sort of like one of the outlaws of the Wild West. He was trying to stay one step ahead of the law all the time, so he wasn't staying in any one place very long.
I don't know whether he had more loyalty to the king or his own pockets. I think an argument could be made for his own pockets, for sure.
He was a profiteer. He wanted to make money. He would sell contraband goods. He would bring stuff up into New York.
Bacon would plunder the homes of patriots, and they always had to be ready when they heard Bacon was on the march.
He was known as Bloody John Bacon. He would just go to different farmhouses with his gang of outlaws and steal things.
So we know that he had worked for the Crane family as a farm laborer, and we know that just a little north of here, the Soper family, we know that he worked on a boat business there.
While Patriot supporters were joining the militia or becoming privateers for the cause of independence, South Jersey native John Bacon found opportunity, and his allegiances led him down a different path, a path that would earn him the title of freebooter, banditti, or as they eventually became called, pine robber.
Pine robbers took advantage of the terrain and the environment of the Pine Barrens. So they went in and out through the pines, they hid there, they scavenged, and were able to use it as a resource, as a base. With villages on the outskirts of the pines, they knew that there was pockets of control. The militia you always knew was going to be in that village. Well, John Bacon and his gang, they might come from one area, they might come from another, they might come at night. And so there's this extra element of palpable fear of like the unknown, literally would come out of the shadows.
The local militia hears a rumor that John Bacon, the known pine robber, may be passing through the area.
They'd gotten the word that Bacon was on the march, and they decided they were going to meet him.
Patriots are in Randolph's Tavern. They're kind of fortifying themselves. They're talking.
As time passes and nobody sees anything, they think maybe they've received a false tip, it's a false alarm, maybe he's not coming.
So the majority of them went home, and a few sentinels stayed on duty.
They stage a guard shift waiting for him at the church in Stafford Township.
The two sentries that they put on opposite sides of the church are woken up by having the bayonets rattle on Bacon's men.
There was a basic firefight.
Fires exchanged.
One person was killed.
Sylvester Tilton gets injured there.
The Manahawkin militia fled back into town, and then Bacon's men went on through.
He didn't ransack or go out to murder anybody. It was more like the Manahawkin militia was this pest that you swat away.
They get pushed out of the way.
They didn't stop him from proceeding on.
He had no fear or second thoughts about walking straight down their main street. It really just shows how confident he was. Sylvester Tilton, for years after, he has this aching pain because of a bullet wound that he suffered there.
Supposedly, for years, would put a scarf through the whole bullet hole.
It's very personal because he knows the man who shot him.
Many years after the war, he still goes back to the house of the loyalist that shot him and wants revenge on him.
Your feelings are not like, I'm against the King of England, I'm against all people who wore red coats. You're like, I know that guy and he shot me and I resent that guy and that action he took. It must have added to the resentment that stayed all those years when they would retell those stories so much longer down the road.
In the aftermath of the Manahawkin skirmish, hard feelings didn't just go away because a peace treaty was signed.
He became the evil Bacon.
He's the most active and the most violent after Yorktown. When I grew up, the degree that I knew about him, I would have said he was just a criminal who was using the red uniforms from the British to legitimize his piracy. I don't think that's true.
If the Loyalists had been successful in winning the war, the stories about him would have made him a hero. But because he's on the losing side, every victory that he had is a loss for the side that's writing the history.
I think he really saw it as an opportunity to improve his stature in life, the bottom rung on top thing, being called a captain to go from being a farm laborer. I think this was a chance for him to rise. His in-laws are Quaker, and then I think his complexity, his moral ambiguity, is really the American Revolution in New Jersey. I think it's interesting comparing legend to fact. We have surviving stories, sometimes not written down for 80 or 90 years after the fact. We try very hard to make things make sense to us, and sometimes we fill in the gaps with things that aren't really that accurate. With the building that we're sitting in, I grew up living in this town thinking this is where the skirmish took place. In fact, just over behind my back on the right is where the blood was supposed to be from the battle. But this building isn't built until 1867. So this is not the building that was here during the American Revolution. The Liberty Bell wasn't cracked on July 4th, 1776, but that doesn't mean that it's still not a symbol.
You can't trust necessarily blindly one version of what you read. One of my favorite quotes about history is that reading history tells you more about the historian than about history.
When our legends and our traditions are shown to be somewhat inaccurate, imprecise, I don't think that takes away the story. I think it makes it richer and it makes it more human.